This is a very quick reminder video of using the single bed to do 2-color Fair Isle punch cards or stranded knitting. So first I just want to show you the setup to begin. You have your punch card set up so that if you want to start on the first row, the 1 is showing. Over here, you want this to be on the arrow or triangle. That means it will advance. If you want it to pause, it goes to the circle. And then on both sides of the carriage, you would need to select also triangle on both sides. And then simply to begin, you switch to the F and you introduce your second yarn into the feeder. And then you knit. So this function is super simple. It allows you to knit 2 colors at the same time. So you're knitting both the blue and the pink simultaneously. But the thing that I want to point out for the sake of now what we're going to do on the double bed is that this is actually a skip or slip stitch pattern. So where blue is knitting, pink is skipping or slipping. Where pink is knitting, blue is skipping or slipping. So you could accomplish this exact same fabric by using the colors 1 at a time and transferring or switching your carriage into slip. So let's quickly do that for this single bed jacquard. And again, you should use whatever technique makes the most sense for what you're doing. I just want to demo this so that we understand what is happening. And we're going to be using the punch card to do the needle selecting of the stitches that we'll be skipping. So I'm going to remove my second color for now. Actually, first I'm gonna knit 1 more row so that I can use the color changer over here. And because I am not set up to use a color changer, I'm just using it to hold my yarn. I'm not actually properly using it as a color changer, so that's important. Use the other carriage faceplate if you want to use the color changer. So I'm going to change my carriage to the slip function, and I'm going to note that both of these have 2 rows in the same color, and then it switches. So those are going to be what skips. So I'm going to be in skip, and I'm knitting, and knitting. As you can see, I have 2, let's see if I can focus, 2 rows of the blue stacked on top of each other with the same floats. And then I'm going to switch yarns. Again, I'm just using the color changer to hold my yarn since I didn't switch the face plate. So now I have my pink yarn in there, and I am going to continue, and we should now be knitting the opposite stitches. So if I were to continue in this manner, then this will result in a vertical stripe because and this is important for double bed, note that the unpunched items do not have any impact on the knitting of the current yarn. We're just focusing on what is punched. What is punched will knit. And remember that you are alternating. So this is knitting 2 rows of, in this case, blue in this position. And then we're going to be knitting 2 rows of pink in this position, which will sort of fill in this space. So then when we go back to our next row, blue, it's going to knit just on top of the blue. So if I wanted to have a true checkerboard pattern, I actually would not want my card to advance, and I would stop it. But just for the sake of the demo, I'm going to switch colors back and forth and let this punch card roll so that you can see that this punch card, when used as a 2 colors knitting at the same time float jacquard, looks like a checkerboard, but when you use it in the skip stitch manner that will be very important for double bed, you will get a vertical stripe. So switching yarns again. And again. Using the color changer for this is obviously what you should do, so keep that in mind. I'm just trying to demo this all at once. So again, this is letting the card advance every row, and we're using the skip function to create a single bed jacquard motif. I will pull it off after this row. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Actually, maybe I'm just gonna fully cast this off because this might be helpful to me later. So I'm going to knit 1 more row and cast off real quick so we can see it. While we're at it, I'm just gonna talk through my cast off technique. To make it really fast, I like to push all of the needles out so that the stitches are behind the latches, then push the needles back so that the stitches are right behind the latches. And then that allows you to push the needle butts back as your only needle motion instead of doing the full push out, push in move, which creates more room for error because your hands have to do more actions. So you can really fly through casting off if you are only needing to push the needles back. Okay, let's take a look at this fabric. Okay, so as we know, We started with the classic 2-color in the carriage single bed float jacquard technique. And when you do that, it alternates the rows every 2 rows, because that is what this punch card is doing. However, when I started isolating the colors and doing 2 rows of blue and then 2 rows of pink, notice that the punch card has a different result, because the 2 blue rows and 2 pink rows sort of come together to create 2 rows total, even though it's 4 rows of knitting. And if you were to keep this punch card rolling like we did in the example, you will get a vertical stripe. So you do need to sort of think about what the punch card is best for, because if you're using it for skipping, you're only going to be knitting the punched items or punched needles, which means that you know, the rows sort of come together to make 2 rows, which are a combination of the 4 rows. Hopefully that'll be clearer as you dive in. Again, that's super important as we get into the double bed jacquard techniques. So that was just a little memory on how to use the punch card for single bed.